Let's go out to Joe in Chicago. Hey, that kind of rhymes. All right, what's up, Joe?
Hey, Dr. John. Thank you so much for taking my call.
Of course. What's happening?
I have a quandary.
Quandary. Oh, that's a word that we've never heard on this show. I think this is the first quandary. Excellent.
There you go. You can grab a nickel for that, too. My quandary is, my issue is, I grew up very Catholic, very obedient, without context.
That was fantastic. Very Catholic. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, like...
So you are great at following rules, and you do not ask questions.
No, exactly that. And it's becoming an issue as an adult.
Correct.
And it has turned me into a people pleaser. It has turned me into a little success pursuing machine that is always tired, and it is ruining my relationship with people.
Is this from church or is this from your parents?
I think it's a little of both, to be very honest.
Okay.
My mom, who is a wonderful lady, she raised me as a single woman. My dad chose to leave.
I'm smiling here. When you watch the YouTube, you're going to see me laughing just then. Anytime somebody says, my mom, she was amazing, and then there's always a but. Or my dad was so great, but...
yes. I mean, they're your first love. They're your first nurturers. They're your first interaction with everything.
And they can also be your first abusers, and they can be your first person who used you to make themselves feel better about themselves. It's all true at the same time, right? Yes,
it is.
Okay.
And my father was an abusive individual, and my mother didn't want us growing around that kind of an environment.
Good for her.
So she left. She immigrated to the United States by herself with 2 toddlers.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
So she's a tough, strong woman, right?
You got that right.
Okay.
You don't mess with her. And, being an adult, I recognize the hardships of that. I recognize not knowing anybody and taking your children and truly just relying on your faith and your tenacity to work and your mind. So as I grew up and I got older, I began to question things, as anybody does. And I became skeptical about a lot of things. And it wasn't until very recently I started realizing, am I being obedient or am I honoring my mother? Which is a big exhale, but also a big suspended breath in my chest, because it is one of the things that, I try to do. I try to be a good Christian person, but also try to live my life.
So obedience and honor are not one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
Obedience and honor are mutually exclusive. Here's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
When you're 10 and your mom says take out the trash because you're a member of our household and you play a role here too, honoring your mom is taking out the trash, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're 13 and you come home and say, Dad, I'm getting bullied, and your dad grabs you by the collar and says, when you walk into school tomorrow, you get off that bus, you walk straight into the lockers, and you hit that kid in the mouth as hard as you can.
Mm.
That is not honoring your dad by hitting him. It's acting like a child like he is. Okay?
Yes.
So one is obedience is honor. One is disobedience is honor. Dad, I'm not going to go hit a kid in the mouth. That's not going to make this better. Okay? Or if the opposite happens, if my son witnessed somebody, another kid in his grade beating up a girl in the hallway, I would fully expect him to intervene. So I've trained him to do, right? To make sure people are safe. And so all I have to say is this. How old are you now?
I'm 28.
Okay. My guess is Mom had a very rigid way of doing life because that's the only way she could survive. And that's the house you grew up in. You also grew up without a dad. You've got a lot of childhood trauma, okay? And the research on immigrant parents and first-gen kids and all that is both really makes for really sexy headlines, and also those are scary houses to grow up in.
Yes.
Both and, right? It's cool to tell the story like, man, my mom made it. whew, that was 20 years of whoa. And there's a lot of those stories that don't get told where mom didn't make it, right? So we know that. You lived through that. My guess is now mom is starting to tell you, continue to tell you how you're living your life and what you should be doing. And I'm your mom. Are you just going to disobey your mom? And the answer is honor in this case. The best way you can honor your mom is to be well and whole. Because she raised you to be fiercely independent, to make hard choices, to walk away when you need to work like nobody's business with a work ethic. And that might mean telling her, no, I'm not going to do that this time. I'm doing something different. Doing everything she says and getting crucified is not honor.
Yes.
So give me an example of something she's telling you to do that you don't want to do anymore.
Oh, this is wonderful. Because so far everything has been so family-centered. I am the firstborn in accordance to, birth order, and I'm also the oldest girl. So the expectation to always take care of people is something that I also struggle with. But recently, I finished my second to last semester of nursing school, so I'm entering that phase of my life. And she wants me to stay in our town, which I don't want to do. I've lived here for close to 28 years, 20 more so. And I don't want to be here. I feel that I have callings to go elsewhere. I feel like
you need to go.
I don't have community here.
You need to go. And I think if I was you, I'd sit down in the conversation and say, Mom, at a young age, you had to go. And you had to go for an abusive reason. I've got to go to go make my mark. You raised me this way. And I'm so grateful you gave me the courage, because a lot of people just stay in their same small town and they die there. And you're saying, time for me to go. And that departure will be met with all kinds of, I can't believe you're abandoning your family. What about this? That's about them. It's probably because you're such an amazing daughter that your mom has come to rely on you like oxygen, right? And she's a grown-up, and she's going to have to find connections there. And this doesn't mean you're gone forever. But it might mean I'm going to go make a place for us, and then I'll come back and get you. It can mean any number of things, but I think you need to go. Because here's what's going to happen if you don't. You're going to start to resent your mom. And I don't think she deserves that. I don't think you deserve that. I don't think your relationship deserves that.
I agree.
And it can be a 2-year thing. Hey, I'm going to try this out for 2 years. And that might give your mom a little ... give her an opportunity to grow into it. Might give you an opportunity to grow into it. And it doesn't sound so eternal or so forever. But I think you need to make a list of the things your mom is asking you to do, or demanding of you, if you will, and walk through, probably with a close friend would be best, but to walk through these and say, okay, as I'm 28 years old, I'm graduating college, I'm about to hit the market and go see the world. How much of this stuff is honor and how much of this is my mom just wants me around? Or how much of this is cultural from the old world and I'm making some changes in my personal life. I'm adopting new parts of new cultures, and I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. It's just choosing reality, right? It's just owning it. Now, I'm telling you to do that. What's the feeling in your guts? Like, yes, or is it, oh no?
I've tried to do that. And it was really hard, because the support system that I had gone to get counseling on it was a pastor of mine. And they knew that I was having issues with identity. They knew I was having issues with being independent as an adult should, or even just chart what that feels like. And I remember sitting down and telling her, I think it's time for me to go. And she said, oh, it's because of that new church that you joined.
Oh, gosh.
It's a cult, isn't it?
You should have got up and walked out.
No.
You should have got up and walked out. Oh, my gosh. It's like sitting down with your barber and being like, oh, I see somebody else cut your hair. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
You see how that pastor made your quest, your adventure, what comes next for you, your identity, all about her.
Yeah.
That's not how you do that. You sit down with somebody, it's, man, I'm sorry that happened to you. Lucky for you, you've got some knuckleheaded podcaster that you've never met. I'll be sure and tell you. No, I mean, I think you got to go. I think you got to go. I think you got to go see. And I also think you got to be honest with your mom. I think you got to be honest with, you are going to feel incredibly guilty. And your mom probably wouldn't be your mom if she didn't just lay it on super thick. And if some of her friends and some of your extended family members can't believe you're abandoning everybody, okay. But I think you need to go. Again, I would tell you, let's go try this for 2 years. Let's go try this for 3 years and see what happens. Let's go see what happens. When we left Texas, and my wife and I left Texas, we left all of our family, all of our friends, our whole thing, and to move to Nashville to work at the university. I said, let's give this 3 years. And let's see what living in another state, another community. And dude, it's been magic. It's been awesome. So yeah, I think it's time. And again, remember, doing every single solitary thing your parent says, even when you're 30 years old, that's not honor. Living the life that they trained you to live to the fullest. Taking care of them when they need care. Setting up support networks that they can opt in or out of. I don't want to live there. I want to live here. Well, I can't afford there. Well, then you don't love me. Well, I'm not taking out a mortgage, right? Honor is a much bigger conversation than I said so. Go see the world. Let me know when you get there. I want to hear how it goes. Sounds like an adventure awaits.